Hi, I'm Kathleen Murf+E with Murf+E Unfiltered, Zero BS Biz Talk, and I'm here with my co-host, Eliot Grossman. How are you, Eliot?
What's going on, Murf? How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah.
So, in thinking about today's topic, I was researching some of the ones that we could uncover, and it's kind of ironic because this one's about busy but not productive. So I was thinking, oh gosh, does that mean that I'm busy and not productive right at this moment as I'm looking through which topics we'd cover?
Yeah,
so,
right.
But I think that.
And what'd you find out?
I think that I was actually being productive because I found a topic for us to discuss
today. You found a lot
today.
for us to discuss.
I did. We have a lot to cover today. We've got
Yeah.
a lot of tips. I'm really excited about what we're going to be covering.
Yep, let's jump in.
We'll jump right in. So I don't know about you, but I can't tell you the number of times I hear people probably on a daily basis say, oh my gosh, I am so busy. And everyone's busy, let's face it. I mean, there isn't a person alive that isn't doing something. Now, the fact that they're busy doesn't necessarily mean that they're productive either. But what's your take on this?
Yeah, so that's, when you sent me these notes, I kind of laughed a little bit, did a little bit of research myself. What I always find is it's quite different on the sales side than the marketing side.
Sure.
So the sales side, I don't think anybody has ever said, anybody always says rather, sorry, I'm super busy, but I could move a few things if I need to play golf, if the weather's good or something like that, right? It's always different on the sales side. We can always move things around.
Always fit golf in.
Always, but on the marketing side or the finance side, I truly believe everybody's crazy busy. I believe there's so much work to be done that making the sales team look good, making the company as a whole look good, it's just, the sales world is quite different. It's just quite different. So what's your take?
So, well, the way that I'm looking at it is, and I'm going to throw out a couple of different questions and then we can banter back and forth about these. Mm-hmm. But from my perspective, I wonder if in fact there's a societal pressure for people to say that they're busy, that they feel they may look bad if they don't say that they're busy. Mm-hmm. Because it's not often that people are necessarily calling them out on the fact and say back to them, no, you're not really busy. You don't generally hear that. And you never hear, I don't have that much going on, especially in the workforce. That would be sort of the kiss of death if you were to say that.
Yeah, right. No, I'm not very busy.
I'm not very busy. I'm just sitting around waiting for somebody
I'm just waiting for something to do. Right.
Exactly. That just does not get stated. Let's face it, right?
Right.
And being busy relates to both work and life. So there's always a balance there. But if you're a leader or manager, one of the things that I think that your job is to do is to understand what somebody really means when they say that they're busy, to be asking them additional questions. So when you hear somebody talking about saying, I'm so busy, and you're in a leadership position or a management position, where do you typically go from there? What kind of questions or responses might you have towards that?
So you don't want to, and I think that's a great question, right? As sales leaders, marketing leaders, we don't want to look like we're Big Brother staring down everybody on our team. What do you mean you're so busy? What are you doing? What's happening? As sales leaders for us, we should kind of know what's going on. Mm-hmm. So if somebody ever says, man, I'm super busy, I can't help you out today, or I'm crazy busy, I don't have enough time for that, I would position a little differently. I'd say, that's incredible. I'd love to hear that stuff. Is there anything I can take off your plate? What's happening so much? Have a great day. It's going to be a productive day. Make it look like we're not kind of snooping in their business.
Exactly.
But we want to know what's going on. I want to know what's going on because I don't believe, I do believe there's a societal pressure to always feel like you're incredibly busy.
Yes, I would agree with that. And I believe when people seem to say that, they're busy, that they may not in fact be productive. But I also think that this could in fact be the sign that there's something else going on at the company, potentially a serious management or engagement challenge. Mm-hmm. Because when you start to look around and people are sort of being fake busy, with some nice air quotes for those people that are listening in on the podcast.
Yeah.
I think that there's an opportunity for the management and leadership to peel back the layers there and start asking some questions in terms of figuring out if in fact they do have a problem. So here's some questions that I toss out and that are tips for people that are listening now thinking about, oh my gosh, yes, I hear this quite often that my staff or my colleagues are always saying that they're busy. So the first one that I would say is, do you feel good about the list of the priorities you're working on? We'll start there. And the next three are, how are the timelines on the projects you're focusing on progressing today, this week, this month, just et cetera? Another one would be, are your projects and the completion of them positively impacting others? And then, is the work you are doing and accomplishing being communicated well to others? Because oftentimes we're getting the work done, but then we're not telling anybody.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Once again, I'm going to go way back to the Gallup strength survey.
Yes.
Right, and you being a coach. It's all about where's your focus, where's your organization, and that will help you kind of help your production one way or the other. So as a sales leader or as a marketing leader, as a senior leader of teams, of people, that's what I want to know. Those questions you ask are brilliant. I'm interested to hear kind of how do you people respond?
Well,
they look at you with two heads. They look at you like, oh crap, she caught on to me.
Well, I don't think you ever want somebody to feel like they got caught.
Right.
You don't want them to feel like they're under the microscope.
They're being a slacker or something's happening.
You don't want to feel like you're assigning blame to them, that they're doing something wrong. Right. So it's really critical in terms of how you deliver these questions with your voice tone and your body posture, and to do so in a place maybe that's not threatening, where they're in front of everybody and you're going to potentially make them feel like they're
sure. Well, you can't call
the wrong
them, right?
spotlight put on them.
Yeah, right.
You don't want that. So that's really critical. And the responses that I get back from people really vary. Some people, you could see them sometimes just breathe a sigh of relief because they feel like, oh my gosh, I'm glad that you're noticing that my hair is on fire and that I'm tearing my hair out and that I haven't left the office for 3 days.
Well, but doesn't that have a lot to do with, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think that has a lot to do, Murf, quite honestly, with how people plan and work and organize and kind of set themselves up. So one of my daughters, my oldest daughter, has a friend of hers, and she's very smart and very in tune with, she's out doing an internship right now at a company out in California. She goes to Northeastern. And she's like, oh God, I'm not producing. I feel like things are crazy. I've got a lot going on. And I said, back it down a little bit. Really, what's your focus? Do you have a calendar in place? Is it a weekly calendar? How does your daily calendar look? And when you start looking at things that way, you as a sales or as a marketing leader asking these folks that you're working with, what are they finding? Like all of a sudden, you can make time. You can find more time in your day if your focus and organization is better.
Without a doubt. And I was talking to somebody last week, and they literally had one thing that they've been putting off doing, and it was a simple thing. And I asked them, I said, why is it that you're finding this to be so challenging? And they said, well, I just keep forgetting to do this. And I said, well, here's a tip to your point.
Right.
Put it in the calendar. Put it in for an hour from now, and put the number in for the person that you have to call, and then accomplish it. And then you'll be done with it. You'll like have this tremendous sense of accomplishment after you do that. And it was as if I was giving them this gigantic tip that was just so brand new. And I thought to myself, this is a younger person, granted. But I thought this is a similar tip that I've given to people that are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s plus, and they just haven't mastered this calendar thing for some reason. But to your point also, you can find time. It is about finding time. If it's important, if it's something that really has to get done, you will make the time to get it done.
Of course. Well, that's about prioritizing. And you talked about your personal and the balance.
Yes.
Well, we all have things going on in our personal lives.
Every day.
So at night, the night before, when we're sitting there thinking, oh my God, I've got a crazy day tomorrow. Is it really crazy?
Yes.
Or is it crazy up here thinking, oh my God, I'm scattered. I got to get all this done before I go coach my football practice or whatever it may be.
Exactly.
That's where it's about. Somebody told me a long time ago, and I know I'm being Captain Obvious here, but it makes sense. Plan your work and then work your plan.
Yes,
and it
I
sounds
love that.
so simple.
No.
But it's true. If you have a plan in place, your work becomes super organized and siloed, prioritizing A, B, and C. Where are my A's, where are my B's, and can I push C's back a little bit to a Friday afternoon when I'm sitting back and I can focus a little more on these?
Exactly. And another thing that I find is that when I have planned ahead, I feel that any kind of anxiety that I might have in terms of being nervous about doing something or maybe not accomplishing something, it gets diminished significantly when I've done even a minimal amount of planning. When there are times when you could potentially overplan and there's no way that you could accomplish all the things that you think that you're going to, and that can be just as stressful as not planning at all. So there is that happy medium somewhere in between.
So when because I know you go to a lot of conferences and you're meeting with a lot of folks and you have a lot of companies, different companies that you're working with and trying to bring on new business and talk about things that go on within your and writing another book.
Yes.
So you've got a lot of things to prioritize and kind of silo. To take that expertise that you have in doing that, because you accomplish all of it, or at least it seems like it.
I do.
Right.
Thank you.
That's the thing, to sit and work with those folks that might seem as scattered. I don't care if they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s in the workforce. That's the important stuff that I think you kind of lend, market me to and help out with.
Right. And so, one of the things, and I've done a lot of research on this before, is there are certain times of the day that we are just more attuned to doing certain types of work better than others. And so generally I will try to plan my day around knowing that there are certain times when I'm far better at writing and being creative, far better at being analytical, far better at being maybe social and making those phone calls or going out and talking to people, etc. Or when I have to sit there and really focus. And I know if I miss those windows of opportunity, sometimes my day doesn't necessarily go as well. And I notice that. And so that's information that I share with other people, is to get them to be cognizant of those times during the day that they're best suited to do work that's in alignment
absolutely,
with
it makes
being
perfect
on
sense.
their A game.
Sure, it makes perfect sense.
Right.
But let's just take one more second. I know we have a lot to get through.
No problem.
But you just said, if I don't get through all of those things,
Yes.
I almost don't feel as productive.
That's right.
So we all get caught up in days. You expect things happen, fires come out, you got to put out some fires, things happen. How do you get people to kind of back down at the end of the day and say, you were productive, you got all of this done, we can push this back, you don't have to work till 11 o'clock at night. How do you handle those things?
So I think that it comes back to maybe having a dialogue with somebody else to have them give you a sense of reality, because more often than not, people are accomplishing more than they actually think that they are.
Right.
So when they keep it all in their mind and they're not necessarily chronicling any of the work that they're doing, I think that it's harder to see that. I'm a very visual person, so I need to see it. So I'll write it down so I can refer back to it.
Task list, whatever it might be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's extraordinarily helpful, so that you can in fact see that you're accomplishing more than you probably think that you are.
Sure.
It may not be that you ticked off all the things on your list that day, but that doesn't mean that you have to stay until 3 a.m. to get them done.
Right.
And in fact, I don't think people, when they do that, are serving themselves or anybody else well, because no one can work 24 hours a day.
Right.
And we hear about there are certain industries that pride themselves, in certain institutions out there, higher education institutions that pride themselves in studying all hours, or grinding it out more than maybe some other colleges, and sacrificing sleep in order to do their work. I don't subscribe to that. I don't say to people that they should be doing that. It goes back just to the simple, basic elements of balance.
Right.
And
absolutely.
And striking that balance. So I have some other tips that I wanted to share, and some which are in the form of questions that then I'm going to throw out there, and then we can also talk about these. So the fifth one I have here is: do you have a good sense the work you are doing is well focused, or does it need to be refined to increase the productivity of the work? Hold that thought. On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest level, are you feeling overwhelmed or well supported to get your work done? Number 7, with your workload, are you feeling that you need more resources to accomplish your work, or that you have the right amount of support? And then the last one, number 8, is: do you ever feel like you're spinning your wheels on the work you're performing? If the person answers yes to this question, or they do not give you a convincing response and tell you no, chances are they may be falling into the only keeping busy category.
Right.
So that's a lot sort of to unpack there, but those are some things as a manager leader to be considering asking people on your staff.
Well, and they're great because the way they're positioned becomes a dialogue and not...
It's not accusatory.
I am not staring down the barrel here at you. It's not accusatory. That's such a better word. You always have better words.
Wow.
You're always good,
I try
right?
to use
Well, as an
words.
author, you got it. So number 5, real quick. Do you have a good sense the work you're doing is well focused? I think being focused is not something that we all are born with or we learn.
Some are better than others.
Some are
clearly.
better than others. Absolutely. In my younger days, I was just scattered. And as a sales guy, I'd say, I get to this, I got to do this, I wanted to get this done.
You had good intentions.
Of course, there are
Right?
always good intentions, but the way we prioritize might not have been very good. Now, as I'm different, I realize how important it is to be productive. It's so much easier to, again, work your plan and plan your work.
Absolutely, without a doubt. So in terms of picking out beyond the question that you just responded to, how do you feel about the spinning your wheels question, in terms of noticing that perhaps that person is really just trying to kind of keep themselves busy and they're not really being productive, and you can see that?
Yeah.
What do you
of
do
course.
in that situation? Then I'll respond to it.
Well,
as
I think
well.
we've all been in that situation ourselves.
Absolutely.
And then, so to be able to look at it as a more seasoned sales leader, to be able to look at it and say, okay, I hired you for a reason. I brought you on the team for a reason because I think you have all the skills and the qualities that can be a productive, successful salesperson. You talked about going back to basics. Let me help you here. Let's go look at that calendar. Let's look at what your list of, oh my God, you got a list of 40 things. Well, we can carve some of that stuff off. What's most important? You tell me your top 5 priorities and then your next 5, and let's put them down in A, B, and C categories and see what's important. All of a sudden, the weight of the world comes off your shoulder. Our job as sales leaders, as senior leaders, is to help these folks, and not just to sit there and crunch numbers and stare at spreadsheets all day.
No.
It is to work with our teams and get them to a place that they become productive and realize that there is time to do all of these things, and you're not just spinning your wheels. Say, okay, that's great, Kathy, I love what you've done on this level. How can we get you to move to this level? Not necessarily faster, but in a different way. How do we look at it a little bit differently, which may make you a little more productive?
Exactly.
Tell me your thoughts on that.
And so I think when I find either myself or somebody is spinning their wheels, the best advice I can give to somebody is get up, do something else. You have to. You really have to mix it up. I think that's critically
I'm sorry
important.
to interrupt you, but when we work together, and we've talked about this in previous episodes.
I know where you're
but
gonna
I
go
would
with this
text
one.
you, or
Yes.
I'd look over and I'd point and say, "We got to go," and we would just go out, or we'd go get a Diet Coke, or we just walk to breathe and get some fresh air.
Yes.
Because you're right.
Literally.
It sounds like it's so common sense, the easiest thing to do, but we all get caught up in just staring at things and trying to do it. Instead, we're just spinning our wheels and we're being very unproductive. So, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. So, and that was enormously helpful. Doing that is probably the number one tip that I could give to somebody in terms of when you're stuck. Get up, go do something else, anything. Take a walk, listen to music, go talk to somebody, look out the window, go check something in your car. It doesn't matter really what it is.
Right.
Go pat an animal if you happen to be lucky enough to have an animal.
But sometimes people have these managers that are at work. They say, well, why is Eliot getting up from his desk?
Sure.
Where's he going?
They're questioning.
There's a lot
your
to do,
movement.
right? The
Sure.
accusatory looks.
Sure.
When it's almost like saying, hey, Murf, relax. I need some fresh air. I need to go kind of take a deep breath and relax, take it in. I'm going to get to all of these things and we'll be more productive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. So, we talked about the lack of business productivity being at the heart of being the busy issue, and then not also falling into the trap of being busy or too busy to address your lack of productivity. So I think that's almost a funny way to look at it, is that you might be too busy to actually think about the fact that you should start to be productive. Versus just busy, for the air quotes again.
Right.
And so I think that, it's hard sometimes, going back to the focus, to take the time to put the construct together to figure out if, in fact, if you're not being productive and why you're not being productive.
Well, and I know for a fact you do this. We all have a lot, as we talked about earlier, in our personal lives. Busy, busy, busy. We're able to prioritize that and put them into the silos, and this has to get done. Well, it's just as easy to do on the other side. And again, I know I'm being Captain Obvious, but you helped me with that. You helped me with that when I was transitioning into a new position.
Sure.
Right? The strengths and what we're good at and what we're not.
And leveraging them. And one of the other tips that I'll share with people that I do personally is I give myself something to look forward to at the end of the day, like a treat, or especially if I'm having to work on a project that's, I know, enormously difficult for me to work on, something that perhaps I just don't like to do. For instance, taxes.
Yeah,
That's
right.
not always
right.
The most fun thing to do. I have friends that are accountants,
Yep.
and I think that they do like to do taxes. And so I'd rather just give that work to them. But
Sure.
if I have to do taxes, from time to time,
Right.
then I have to reward myself at the end of the day to get through it. Otherwise, it's just not going to get done.
I think they're all great tips, and I'm sure your treat is more with grape or barley and hops related. That's okay.
Mainly chocolate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right,
that
go
typically, or I'll take my dog for a walk.
There you go. All right.
Or I will plan to meet somebody for coffee,
Right
typically.
on.
So I try to keep it so that it's somewhat healthy. Or going to the gym. Like, I'll literally use going to the gym in the afternoon as a treat. Instead of going early in the morning, I'll look forward to it that way and leverage it.
And it helps your productivity.
Enormously.
Right.
Yeah, it really does.
Yep.
I mean, when you get that blood flowing in your brain, it starts to tick on all
Sure.
cylinders, and it's all good.
Got it.
So in terms of wrapping up today, I think we covered a lot of ground. I'm hoping that these tips that we shared with people from our own experience and from just some of the questions that they can use to answer or have others on their team answer will be helpful to them. And we're going to be talking the next time about a topic which is sort of tongue-in-cheek, but I'm really excited about it. So I want to let people know that they should stay tuned for the next topic of, are you bored or boring? So that one's going to, I think, elicit a lot of eyebrows up.
Yeah,
kind
awesome.
of curious, like,
Episode
what are you
9,
talking about?
right?
That's right, episode
Yep.
9 coming up. So I want to just thank you for a great show today, Eliot. This is, as always, a ton of fun. And thank you today, everybody, for listening into Murf+E Unfiltered, Zero BS Biz Talk. We'll see you the next time.
Good job, Murf.
Thank you.
Thank you.